Maybe that had a lot more to do with me, how I reacted rather than that other person. But sometimes it's them too.
That's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. I think that's such a good point. I think what I'm saying is I would second that. And to give another answer, to give a different answer, I also feel the hardest thing in a relationship is you're always projecting your strengths onto the other person's weaknesses. So you want the other person to be more like you. But when you really think about it, you don't. Like you love the other person for not being like you. But when you say things like, I'll give an example that I'm super organized, disciplined, live by the schedule, on time.
So am I.
And at times in our relationship, I've wanted you to become like that and do things like me. And when I've really sat with that and really thought with that, I realized actually I don't want you to be like me because I love you for not being me.
Yeah.
And the things that you bring to this relationship, whether it's spontaneity, whether it's being fresh, whether it's being always alive, like that's the strength. And I think what we do in relationships is we dampen our partner's strengths instead of amplifying them.
Yeah.
And what that does is it makes your partner feel like they have to do something different or be something different. But actually, if you amplified their strengths, which is the part you love anyway, you're going to have a much more fulfilling and exciting relationship. So I think that I find that hard because I think we all live in our heads.
Yeah, it's so true.
And we think the way we think is the right way. I'm
like, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? And you're like, well, I kind of have a 9 to 5, like 6 schedule ready to go for the next like 6 months. And I'm like, oh, so you don't want to go shopping with me, or you don't want to go to like get some plants? And yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like but I also think from that, you know, it also helps. Even if you're not doing, even if you feel like it's a negative thing, to notice that and to try and correct it. In the same way, I think it can also help the other person tighten up on that area of their life too. Like, okay, cool, you may be super organized and I may be not very organized at all. But at the same time, we can find like a good middle ground when we're together where it's like, okay, you know that I like being spontaneous. So maybe randomly you'll be like, okay, cool. Like, which you do. You're like, oh, you know what? I'll just cancel my meeting, or I won't do this and let's just go do this. And for me, I'm like, oh, okay. And I know that I try to be a little bit more organized where I'm like, oh, okay, I need to make sure I do this today. I need to make sure I give you this today, like whatever it is, like trying to make that better as well. Because even though it's a strength in some ways, every strength ends up being a weakness in some way too. So I think it helps, you know, kind of balance it out as well and help the other person notice when they need to probably change a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay. Second question is, how did your relationship change in 2020?
How did it change? I kind of feel like this felt like our first year of marriage because we we have not spent this much time together in a whole entire relationship. And so I kind of feel like, for me, it felt like we were on our honeymoon type feel where we just got married and we were learning so much more about each other. But then we ended up, just really understanding one another and settling into each other a lot better than we probably even have for the past, how many years have we been married? Like 3 years?
We've nearly been married 5 years.